I never thought the sound of laughter could scar me. But it did, because the last time I heard it, it came from the man I trusted most, while he destroyed everything I loved. 12 years ago, I woke up on what was supposed to be a celebration. My 10th wedding anniversary. Instead of breakfast in bed, my wife stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, like she couldn't even look at me anymore. "I don't love you," she said flatly. "I want a divorce." At first, I thought it was one of her cruel jokes. She used to do that sometimes, say something sharp, then smile like I was stupid for believing her. But this time, there was no smile. Just that cold stare. And then, the kicker, she still let me clasp the silver necklace around her throat that I'd spent months saving for. She took it, thanked me, and then told me she wanted me gone. I thought that was the bottom. It wasn't. Not even close. Because losing her wasn't the worst part. Losing my son was. Ethan was 7 back then. All freckles and energy, always calling me dad in that sing-song voice that made my entire world stop. I loved him with everything in me. But none of that mattered once the lies started. I'll never forget sitting in that courtroom in Phoenix. My lawyer beside me, whispering that things looked good. That I'd probably get joint custody. That the judge would see me as a stable parent. And then I saw him. Ryan. My best friend since high school. The guy who'd stood beside me at my wedding, who'd been in every photo, who'd crashed on my couch more times than I could count. He walked into the courtroom like a hero about to testify in my defense. For a split second, I felt relief. Of course he'd tell the truth. Of course he'd have my back. But when he took the stand and the tears started rolling down his face, my stomach turned to stone. I watched him shake his son, Ryan said, choking on fake sobs. I saw him lose control in one of his rage episodes. I froze. I wanted to scream. What rage episodes? What was he even talking about? And then he pulled out his so-called evidence. Texts, doctored videos, snapshots of me and Ethan twisted into something ugly, like every baseball game, every bedtime story, every piggyback ride was actually abuse. My wife, Lauren, sat there beside him, nodding through crocodile tears. Acting like she'd been living in fear all along. The judge's face changed instantly. Disgust. Suspicion. Like I was something toxic. My lawyer stammered, unprepared for this ambush. When the gavel came down, my life split in half. No visitation. No phone calls. Nothing. I stumbled out of that courthouse hollow, numb. But the pain hit on the drive home. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see straight. I grabbed a bottle of whiskey and drank until the room spun. And then, in the middle of that drunken fog, I called him. My best friend. My brother. The man who had just lied under oath to steal my child from me. I demanded answers, begged for an explanation. Do you know what he did? He laughed. That cold, smug laugh I'll never forget. Then he told me the truth, the kind of truth that kills something inside you. I've wanted your wife for years, he said. Now she's mine. And I'll be a better father than you ever were. I thought my heart couldn't break further. But then Lauren took the phone and shoved the knife deeper. You'll never see Ethan again, she hissed. He believes what we tell him, that you hurt him when he was little. He's better off without you. And then she said it, the part that still makes me sick, they'd been planning it for years. Sleeping together behind my back. Waiting for the perfect moment to ruin me. I didn't fight. I didn't storm their house. I just left. Moved states, tried to rebuild. Sent birthday cards, Christmas letters, little gifts for a boy who never once wrote back. Because they told him lies. Because he thought I didn't want him. Years passed. 12 of them. I almost gave up hope. And then, one morning, the phone rang. A hospital. My old hometown of Mesa. Ethan, now 19, had been in a car accident. They said my name was listed as his emergency contact. I dropped everything. Got in my car, and shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. And as I drove toward him, all I could think was, why me? Why now? When I finally walked into that hospital waiting room, I saw them. Lauren. Ryan. Both staring at me like I was a ghost. I hadn't even seen my son yet. But the air was already thick with tension. And what Ryan told me in that room made me hate him even more than I did a decade ago. But that wasn't the worst of it, not even close. Ryan's voice was the first thing I heard in that sterile waiting room. He didn't even let me sit down. You know she never got your letters, right? His tone was mocking, almost proud. Every card, every package, I trashed them. He smirked, leaning back like he was telling me a joke. I told Ethan you'd abandoned him. That you'd run off and started a new life without him. My blood boiled so hot I could feel it in my teeth. 12 years of silence, of a son who thought I didn't care, and this bastard had stolen all of it from me. Ryan leaned in closer, lowering his voice. And I'll admit something else. He paused, almost savoring the words. I wasn't the greatest stepdad. Kids are work, man. Sometimes you gotta keep them in line. A good wallop here and there. His face twisted into fake sorrow. But hey, you should thank me. I raised him when you weren't around. My hands clenched so hard my knuckles went white. Every nerve in me screamed to break his jaw right there in front of everyone. And then, from behind a half-open curtain, I heard it. Dad? The voice was small, weak, but it stopped me cold. I spun around, and there he was. Ethan. My son. 19 now, but still with those same green eyes I remembered from when he was little. Pale and bruised from the accident, but unmistakably him. I rushed to his bedside, my legs barely holding me up. He looked between me and Ryan, confusion and fear fighting for space on his face. Lauren suddenly appeared, her voice sharp like glass. Get away from him, she hissed, stepping between us. But Ethan's voice cut through, quiet but firm. I put Dad as my emergency contact. Not you. Not Ryan. Him. The room froze. Lauren's face drained of color. Ryan's smug expression faltered for the first time in years. Sweetheart, you're confused, Ryan said quickly, trying to regain control. He put on that fake fatherly tone that made my stomach churn. You just hit your head in the accident. You don't know what you're saying. Don't call me sweetheart. Ethan's voice cracked, but his words were steady. And I know exactly what I'm saying. A doctor walked in then, clipboard in hand. He frowned at the crowded room. I need everyone except immediate family to step outside while I examine him. He's not family, Lauren snapped, pointing at me. He lost all rights years ago. The doctor glanced at Ethan. You're 19. You decide who stays. Ethan looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time in 12 years, I saw recognition in his eyes. Something unshakable. He stays, Ethan said. His voice was soft but unyielding. They go. Lauren sputtered, grasping for words. You don't understand, he's dangerous. He used to hurt you when you were little. We have court documents. The doctor cut her off. Then call security. But right now, my patient's wishes come first. Ryan tried one last pathetic move. Doc, listen, he's manipulating him. He's not thinking straight after the crash. The doctor glanced at Ethan's scans. He's thinking perfectly clear. Now leave. Both of you. The room went quiet except for the beeping of machines. Lauren's glare burned into me as she and Ryan stormed out, whispering furiously to each other in the hallway. When it was finally just me and Ethan, my body felt like it was shaking apart. I pulled a chair to his bedside, afraid that if I touched him, he'd disappear again like a dream. Why did you put me as your contact? I asked quietly. Ethan's eyes dropped to the blanket in his hands. Last year, I found some old photos in the attic. Us. At the park. At the beach. Reading bedtime stories. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. They told me those photos were fake. That you'd paid someone to edit them. But I knew. Nobody can fake the way you looked at me in those pictures. I fumbled for my wallet, pulling out the worn photograph I'd carried for over a decade, Ethan on my shoulders at the Messer County Fair, both of us laughing at something off camera. This one's my favorite, I whispered, handing it to him. Tears welled in his eyes. I remember this day. You won me that giant teddy bear. Mr. Snuggles, I said, smiling despite everything. You remember his name. I remember everything, son. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every year I couldn't be there. I sent you cards and letters for all of them. His face darkened. I never got them. I know, I said quietly. Ryan told me himself. Ethan's hands clenched the blanket. They said you abandoned me. That you moved away and didn't want me anymore. I never remarried. Never had more kids. I couldn't replace you. My voice cracked. I never stopped fighting for you. Before I could say more, the door burst open. Lauren stood there with 2 security guards. That's him, she pointed, her voice sharp with panic. He's violating a restraining order. The guards asked for my ID. My hands were steady as I handed over my license. They radioed dispatch. After a tense minute, the reply came back. No active restraining order on file. Lauren's face went white. That's impossible. Check again. We've checked twice, the guard said firmly. There's nothing. Lauren stormed out, seething. Ethan watched the whole thing with wide, stunned eyes. She lied about that too. I opened my mouth to answer, but I didn't need to. Because right then, Ryan appeared in the doorway again. His face had changed, the mask was gone. And what Ethan said to him in that moment turned the entire room to ice. Ryan leaned against the doorframe, his voice dripping with false concern. Ethan, buddy, don't let him twist things. You know what he did. You know the truth. Ethan's head turned slowly toward him, his green eyes sharp despite the bruises on his face. No, he said firmly. I know what you did. There's a difference. For the first time in years, I saw Ryan's mask crack. He blinked, thrown off balance. What are you talking about? You hit me, Ethan said flatly. His voice was steady, but I could hear the tremor underneath. When Mom wasn't looking. When she was gone. You'd slap me, shove me, throw things at me. His voice rose. You called it discipline. But it wasn't. The room went cold. My chest clenched so hard I thought I might pass out. Ryan laughed nervously, raising his hands. Discipline isn't abuse, kid. Every teenager acts out. Don't you dare call me kid. Ethan's voice cracked, but it was filled with something I hadn't heard from him in years, fire. Last month you backhanded me because I didn't answer you fast enough. 2 months ago, you shoved me into the wall because I came home late. Should I keep going? Ryan's jaw tightened. Ethan. Don't. I stood slowly, fists clenched, every protective instinct inside me roaring to life. My body buzzed like I was ready to end him right there. But then I felt Ethan's hand grab mine from the bed. His grip was weak, trembling, but deliberate. Don't, he whispered. He's not worth it. Ryan's face twisted, anger, then panic, then right back into his fake pity act. You're confused, he said, trying to smooth his tone. You've been under stress. The accident's messing with your memory. But Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. I remember everything. For a split second, Ryan's mask slipped completely. His eyes darkened, his lips curled into a snarl. And I saw the man he really was, cruel, calculating, the monster who had stolen my son from me. And then just as quickly, the fake softness returned. Look, buddy, raising you hasn't been easy. You've been difficult. I had to make tough choices. Stop calling it that, Ethan spat. It wasn't tough love. It was abuse. Ryan's jaw locked. His eyes darted between me and Ethan, and I saw something I'd never seen in him before, fear. But I wasn't feeling fear. I was feeling memory. A flashback slammed into me, one I hadn't let myself replay in years. Ethan was 6. We were at Papago Park in Phoenix, his little legs pumping furiously as he tried to chase pigeons near the water. He tripped, scraped his knee, and started to cry. I knelt down, brushing the dirt away, telling him it was just a warrior scratch. He laughed through the tears, clutching my neck as I carried him back to the car. His whole world was me. And then, 3 months later, I was standing in that courtroom watching Ryan call me a monster. That memory seared through me now, as I stood in the hospital watching him lie all over again. "Get out," I said, my voice low, "dangerous. Now." Ryan hesitated. His eyes flicked toward Ethan, then back to me. For once, he didn't have a comeback. He just turned on his heel and left. The door clicked shut. The silence after felt heavy, but not empty, almost like the room could breathe again. Ethan exhaled shakily, his hand still gripping mine. "Since I was 8, he said quietly, eyes fixed on the blanket. That's when it started. At first it was just yelling. Then shoving. The hitting didn't start until I was 13. Every muscle in my body tightened. I wanted to tear down the hospital walls, to track Ryan and Lauren down and make them pay for every bruise, every tear. But my son needed me there more than I needed revenge. I swallowed hard, my voice raw. "I'm so sorry. I should have found a way back sooner. I should have fought harder." Ethan's lip trembled. "How?" "They had everyone convinced you were dangerous. They had proof. Even I believed it for years." His voice cracked. "I hated you. And you never deserved it." I wanted to tell him it wasn't his fault, that he was just a child caught in their web. But the word stuck in my throat. The doctor re-entered quietly, checking Ethan's vitals. He gave me a nod that said I could stay. As he adjusted the 4, Ethan's eyelids started to droop, heavy with exhaustion. Before he drifted off, I slipped a card from my wallet and wrote my cell number on the back. I pressed it into his hand. "Call me anytime. Day or night. If you need anything." His lips moved weakly. "Don't leave yet." "I won't," I whispered. And as he finally closed his eyes, I sat there holding his hand, staring at the boy I'd thought I'd lost forever. But deep down, I knew Ryan and Lauren weren't finished. They'd spent 12 years weaving their lies. They wouldn't let Ethan slip away from them so easily. The storm was only just beginning. The next 3 weeks felt like living in a minefield. Every day I drove to the hospital, every day I sat by Ethan's bed, and every day Lauren and Ryan circled like vultures. They tried everything, whispering to doctors about my violent past, loud comments to nurses about me abandoning my family, even dragging in old family friends to vouch for what a terrible father I supposedly was. But Ethan was watching. And this time, he wasn't buying it. One afternoon, Lauren brought in Catherine, an old mutual friend I hadn't seen in over a decade. My stomach dropped. She'd testified against me during the custody trial, swearing she knew I had a temper. Lauren smiled sweetly at her, loud enough for Ethan to hear. "Tell the staff what you told the court back then. About how dangerous Daniel is." Catherine froze when her eyes landed on me. Then she shook her head. "Oh my God. They told me you were in prison." My heart nearly stopped. "They lied to me," she whispered, her face pale. I helped them destroy you because I believed them. Lauren's smile cracked, but Catherine wasn't finished. She hugged me tightly, whispering, "I'm so sorry." Then she looked straight at Ethan. "Your dad isn't what they say he is." The shift in Ethan was visible. His suspicion melted into something else, something harder, clearer. By the time he was discharged from the hospital, the dam had cracked wide open. The social worker offered him 3 options while the legal mess got sorted: go home with Lauren, stay with relatives, or enter a group home. Ethan looked the woman straight in the eye. "What about with my dad?" Lauren nearly choked. "Absolutely not, he lost his rights." Based on lies, Ethan snapped. "I want to see the real court documents. All of them." The silence in that office was deafening. It took a week to get transcripts. When we read them together, my stomach turned. Ryan's testimony back then had been detailed, rehearsed, painting me as a monster. But what gutted me most wasn't his lies. It was seeing how easily the court had believed him. "This is insane," Catherine muttered as she skimmed. "The day he claimed you shook Ethan? You were at my birthday party in Tucson, 3 hours away." Piece by piece, the truth was stitching itself together. But Ryan must have sensed it. Because his tactics changed. Anonymous numbers started blowing up my phone. "Stay away from him. You'll regret this." One evening I came back to my motel room to find police tossing the place apart. Someone had reported stolen goods. Jewelry, electronics, all planted. My heart sank. This was how it started before: fake evidence, twisted stories. But I'd learned. I had cameras installed. The footage showed Ryan himself entering my room with a key, leaving 10 minutes later with a duffel bag. The charges were dropped. But it was proof Ryan wasn't just desperate, he was unraveling. And then came the breaking point. It was a school event Ethan begged me to attend. His first debate tournament since the accident. His first time publicly acknowledging me as his father. The community center was packed with students, parents, teachers. And of course, Lauren and Ryan. Their eyes burned holes into me the entire night. During a break, Ryan cornered me by the refreshment table. His face was flushed, his whisper venomous. "You think you're clever? You think you can steal him back? He's mine. He'll always be mine." I leaned in, my voice calm. "Like your ex-girlfriends were yours? The ones who filed complaints and then mysteriously disappeared." His face went scarlet. "Shut your mouth." But before he could say more, Ethan appeared at my side, slipping his hand into mine. "Everything okay, Dad?" he asked loudly. The word Dad echoed through the room like a gunshot. People turned. Whispers spread. Lauren rushed over, panic in her eyes. "Sweetheart, come here. Don't stand near him." "No." Ethan's voice was clear, steady. "I'm staying right here." Ryan snapped. He grabbed Ethan's arm, yanking hard, right where the fading bruises still marked his skin. Ethan cried out in pain. The entire room went silent. "Let him go," I said, my voice low, deadly calm. Ryan sneered. "He's my son. I raised him. You lost him years ago." I stepped forward, my voice rising. "No. You abused him. And I can prove it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Catherine stepped forward from the audience, her voice shaking. "He's telling the truth. I've seen the evidence. Photos. Texts. Medical records. You've been hurting him for years." Other voices joined in. A neighbor talking about late-night shouting. A teacher admitting she'd noticed bruises. Ethan's friend saying she'd been sworn to secrecy. Ryan's mask disintegrated. He looked around wildly, cornered, like an animal caught in headlights. "This is ridiculous," he shouted. "All lies? All of you?" I pulled out my phone. Do you want me to play the recording? The one where you admit to destroying my son's letters. Ryan lunged at me. In front of everyone. I sidestepped and he crashed into the punch table, red liquid splattering across his shirt. He scrambled up, wild-eyed, looking more deranged than I'd ever seen him. You ruined everything. He screamed, his voice cracking. She was supposed to be mine. The life was supposed to be mine. The entire room gasped. Lauren's face went pale as stone. And then Ethan, my son, looked him dead in the eye and said the words that finished it. I'm not yours. I never was. Ryan froze, his chest heaving, his hands shaking. And for the first time in 12 years, I saw it in him. Fear. The courthouse in Phoenix buzzed like a hive the morning of the trial. Reporters swarmed outside, microphones shoved toward anyone who looked like they might know the story. I kept Ethan close, shielding him from the chaos, my hand gripping his shoulder like I'd never let go again. Inside, the gallery was packed, neighbors, teachers, even Catherine, sitting tall in the front row. I could feel the weight of years pressing down on me, but this time, I wasn't walking in alone. Lauren sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back, her face pale but still trying to maintain that old polished composure. Beside her was Ryan, cuffed, eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. When the judge called the court to order, the charges echoed like gunshots: conspiracy, witness intimidation, evidence tampering, child endangerment. Every word was a reminder of the hell they'd built for me. The prosecution's opening was devastating in its simplicity. A timeline of betrayal. A pile of evidence stacked higher than their lies could ever reach. And then it was Ethan's turn. He walked to the witness stand slowly, still recovering from the accident, but his back straight, his voice steady. Sworn in, he met the prosecutor's eyes and began. They told me my dad didn't want me, he said, voice clear enough for the whole room to hear. That he was dangerous. That he hurt me when I was little. His lip trembled, but he didn't falter. I believed them. For years. I hated him. He turned then, locking eyes with me. But it was all lies. My throat tightened as he went on. He told the jury about the abuse, Ryan slaps, shoves, the nights he was left with bruises and excuses. He told them about the photos he found hidden in the attic, the pictures of us together that proved love couldn't be faked. Why didn't you speak sooner? The prosecutor asked gently. Ethan swallowed hard. Because they convinced me it was normal. That if I told anyone, it would only get worse. And I was scared. He glanced at Ryan then, his stare sharp as glass. But I'm not scared anymore. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge leaned forward, his jaw tight. When it was my turn, I laid out 12 years of proof, every letter I'd sent, every gift receipt I'd saved, every desperate attempt to stay connected. I showed the jury the recording of Ryan bragging about destroying my mail, laughing about turning my son against me. Lauren's lawyer tried to spin it, painting her as a confused mother manipulated by Ryan. But the prosecution shredded that. Visitor logs, money transfers, prison calls, all linking her directly to the harassment campaign. And then came her testimony. She tried to cry, tried to paint herself as the victim, the mother who only wanted to protect her child. But under cross-examination, the mask finally slipped. You knew about the abuse, didn't you? The prosecutor pressed. Lauren hesitated, her eyes flicking to Ryan before darting back down. I suspected, she whispered. Suspected, the prosecutor's voice cut sharp. Or ignored it, because admitting it would mean losing him. That broke her. She screamed, not the tears of a mother, but the fury of someone exposed. He ruined everything, she shrieked, pointing at me. He poisoned my son against me. He deserved what happened to him. The jury flinched. Even Ryan stared at her like she'd just burned him too. The judge slammed his gavel, calling for order. But it was too late. Everyone in that room had seen who she really was. After 2 days of testimony, the jury took less than 3 hours. On the charge of conspiracy, guilty. On the charge of witness intimidation, guilty. On the charge of child endangerment, guilty. Each word felt like a chain breaking after 12 long years. Ryan exploded in his seat, cursing, straining against his cuffs, shouting that Ethan was his, until deputies dragged him out, his voice echoing down the hallway. Lauren just sat there, pale and shaking, staring at me with eyes that weren't angry anymore. They were afraid. The gavel struck one last time, and it was over. Ethan leaned against me, his hand gripping mine so tight it hurt. For the first time in over a decade, I felt free. But as we left the courthouse through a swarm of reporters, I couldn't shake the weight pressing against my chest. Because deep down, I knew people like Ryan didn't just disappear quietly. And I was right.